Here we go. We're recording.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Romero.
Hi, I'm Rich Erickson.
We're going to do our final reflection together to talk about how this course went for us.
Yes. It was, in the end, a pretty great course, you know.
Yeah.
I have to say I'm pretty pleased with the way everything turned out. It was a little rough at the beginning, but it was a good course.
I agree. It was definitely a lot of fun. So I guess we can start with defining digital storytelling. So, well, the first thing that came to my mind was kind of a smart aleck thing of just a story told with the use of digital tools.
Right.
But as I was going more deeply into my definition, though, I was thinking about it being an opportunity for anyone to share their story in a variety of ways, where the storytellers can choose the formats and tools that work for them and for their purpose, and really with an emphasis on the fact that anyone can be the author of a digital story.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I had words like expansive and collaborative, but also kind of invasive. And I had the same thing. It encompasses any type of storytelling.
Right.
And that is, you know, even personal. What was kind of an insight to me was that everything you put on there, you're creating a digital story. So it's not just the writing of a story and then using different media to, you know, create a narrative or something. It can be just your day-to-day life. You're creating digital stories too. I thought that was really interesting when we talked about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, anything pretty much can count as a story.
Yeah, and I think people are telling stories more and more. I guess one of the eye-opening things was that people are really telling stories and they're trying it, whether they know it or not, but mostly they know it by what they're putting out there. And there are just a lot more people utilizing the digital interwebs and, you know, creating their own stories in their own ways.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I thought that, yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything else. Oh, and then the other big one for the digital storytelling was the other eye opener was product marketing. When they talk about the marketing and how they're utilizing all of this, companies to tell stories and connect their product with a story.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That kind of slipped my mind, but that was a really interesting aspect of it.
Yeah, and nervous. It made me a little nervous too.
Yeah.
All right. So, how does it influence learning? How is it? You know, we're both teachers. How does this class? How did it, you know, affect your teaching or affect your knowledge about how you're teaching?
So I was thinking about it in like a general sense of digital storytelling, just the fact that it provides more platforms for students to create and share their writing, and they're relevant and authentic and engaging for the students. And then it gives endless opportunities for choice so that, you know, we can really draw in students who might be like, oh, I hate writing, or, you know, I don't have anything to say, and provide basically ways that all of them can engage.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest thing for me is, you know, digital literacy and digital storytelling does not necessarily mean putting pen to paper anymore or typing up things. You know, and I thought I was so creative digitally because I was using Google Docs and, you know, we were doing all these things. And I realized through this class, there's so many different ways to tell a story. And it can still be a story. I'm still trying to figure out how to, you know, put that into my class because I am a language arts teacher. So I haven't fully you know, I don't, I haven't grasped the full concept of how I can show that they're telling a story via all these other ways, you know.
Right. Right. That's true. Yeah, this is definitely like a big concept that can't just be like you can't just change everything overnight. It's going to take a lot of time and like do little things, phase in little things here and there and just try to keep focusing on that. But yeah, there's just so much to do, especially when you have like you can't just go and change everything unless, I don't know. I can't go change everything in my classroom because a lot of it is common curriculum and common ways amongst the departments. So some
Right.
things will work and some things will take time.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is kids are moving on without us. Like they leave school and they are doing all of this digital work and all of this remixing, and they're learning in such different ways,
Yeah.
um, that schools are pretty far behind now all of a sudden, you
Yeah.
know,
So,
in understanding how students are learning, because I think they're learning very differently. And I think many of the articles opened my eyes to this, to the idea that we're pretty far behind. And
yeah.
understanding them.
Yeah, and there's some point in there about like a lot of the learning isn't happening in the classroom, so we have to take what they're learning out of the classroom and connect it with the classroom so that it's not disjointed and so that it actually, we can do so much more if we do that.
Yeah, and that'll lead to my dialogue later. That's a good thing, for what people are trying to do to connect,
Yeah.
students to their learning. Yeah. The only other thing I had is this quote that says, "Young people are embracing remix and mass, and it is increasingly integral to how they make meaning and express ideas." And so this
Mm-hmm.
whole idea that taking from something and creating something new with it it's a big deal, and kids are learning, and that's the way they're learning these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
We teach, don't you dare touch someone else's, you know, ideas.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah, that's a good
interesting.
one.
So cool. Do you want to talk about the greatest hits
Sure.
and favorites? Let me pull this up.
Okay.
Let's see if this works. There we go.
All right. Cool.
Let me hide this. Here we go. Okay. So do you want to go first here?
Sure. That's fine. So one of the greatest hits I had, I was thinking about, I should go chronologically, but I actually went opposite from chronological. So I started with the most recent and probably one of the most used the most forms of like digital media. So that was my Blast from the Past challenge, which included photo flashbacks. And yeah, if you want to click that link there real quick, and then you can scroll down and click the one that says photo flashback number 3 on the menu. That was probably my favorite one of the ones that it was a lot of effort to make. So this whole project was cool. It obviously used graphics, but then I also used like dialogue, talking with people outside of the class, the people who I took photos of. I had them share their version of the memory,
Oh, neat.
and I posted them to Instagram, an Instagram story, and then kept it all together on a website. So I started. Sorry, I think my video is like freezing up on me. So I started a WordPress blog because I've been using Medium for our class. So that was a challenge to try out a new format. So
Right.
that was probably one of my favorite challenges. And then
Yeah.
The next one I included, this was the AI conversation, and it was where I did a Twitter poll story. This was, I don't know that the story actually turned out that great, but I think the process was a lot of fun and pretty cool and different from anything else I did, because I couldn't write the next part of the story until I got a poll from classmates and whoever else wanted to vote.
I had
So,
voting.
what's that?
I had fun voting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really interesting to like write a story, like short little bits every single day. Took so long to write such a short little story, but it was pretty cool to see what people voted, and then I had to go certain routes with the story that I would probably not have done if it was just me writing it alone. So
Right.
so that was cool. And
That was a
then
fun.
yeah. And then my next one is when I was the master of ceremonies for the StoryCorps dialogue. And I don't know that this one was necessarily that exciting or interesting, but I definitely using like the video and audio editing so that I could cut the tracks and add in other images and try to keep everything lined up. That was a new challenge for me to try. So that one was pretty cool.
I agree.
And
That
then,
was fun to do that. Kind of add in music and sound.
yeah, it was fun. And then I think this was the first challenge I did, so it's like pretty simple, but it was the Posterize It challenge, and obviously it just uses graphics, but starting out, like not having much experience and using, I think there were like 5 different images I had to use to layer together and do some editing just to get it to look like that, which wasn't as good as I had imagined in my head, but good enough.
Do you remember what you layered through?
Like
What
what?
you used to do the layering?
So I tried, like I can't remember. I tried something. I tried like 2 different things, and they were not working, and they were not doing what I wanted. So I actually ended up. I just used PowerPoint.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for an early one, this looks great. I battled and battled. That's why I ask. I have 2 that coming up that I
yeah,
struggled in. It was so frustrating to me.
I felt like with a lot of the challenges, I tried using new tools, but they wouldn't necessarily do what I wanted them to do without me having to like pay or something. And so then if I knew some other tool that I already knew how to use could do what I needed it to do, like eventually I might just revert back to that. Like, well, there were certain things like with transparency that like the other programs I was using weren't working right. So I was like, well, I'll just go back to that because I tinkered around enough, you know.
Played around a lot, and yes, sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. And I was sometimes I was done. All right,
Yeah.
all right. Go through my greatest hits, and then we'll go back to the dialogue and such. Um, this was one of the first ones I did, and it was make a poster about the future or something.
Mhm.
Um, and so I did. Why I put this up here is it says take your education with you, and it's about implanting um, something into your head, and you walk around and you get educated as you're walking through the city and all that, which was great. But it's still, what's funny is I looked at this and it's still linear. It's still like when
Mhm.
you walk around, it'll teach you social studies. But with this whole class, I've learned that you learn by taking in from different things and remixing, and you know what I
Right.
and so this would still just be something telling you, you know what I mean? Just, I still had the mindset of standing up, and talking to the kids and imparting information. And so I tried to be really modern, but it really didn't fit with the way kids are learning today,
Right.
which, I mean, it really matched my lack of knowledge of all that really is going on in the digital world.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this one, why is this? Hold on. I'm on the wrong post. See all these things I've learned how to use this. Okay. This one is the one I was talking about. I was asking about layering. I
Okay.
used Sumo Paint, which is a Chrome additive, and it was so frustrating. In this first one, I battled just to get this little thing in there.
Right.
And sure the eyeglass. Battled and battled. I finally had to go to my friend who was a graphic designer and say, teach me how to do this. And he obviously was like, oh, it's simple, And so for one of my final daily creates, I was like, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to do it on my own. And again, I struggled just for this picture. I probably struggled for 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Just, I'm going to make this happen on my own. And it was funny. And so I finally got it, and I really liked how it turned out. Hiding the X. Really liked how it turned out.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, that was fun. That was my coat of arms.
Oh,
Yes, and tricky. And then the whole Henry story,
right.
The orphan, the lonely orphan. I thought that was a blast. And at first I was like, no one's going to do this, And then I was, I saw a bunch of them and I was like, we need an evil person. And so I finally got to use my wrestling mask that someone gave me. and it was a blast. I had my daughter join me, and it was really fun adding to the story. And then it kind of took off, and everyone really got creative. I really enjoyed that. And then my sketch note. I really had a blast doing this on a little whiteboard. And I practiced this one, I practiced paper, trying to get it right. I practiced when I wanted it to go so well in the first one. I just loved the way it turned out. And, honestly, I used, iMovie. I didn't do anything. I loaded it in there and sped it up and added some music, and it turned out great. And I almost felt bad using iMovie because you're supposed to try so much. And I know how to use iMovie, but it was really fun.
Well, I think doing the sketch note itself, though, is is challenging. That's part of my final project is going to be there's going to be one piece that's sketch note in there.
Yeah, it's really fun to do, and just when you speed it up, I don't know.
Yeah,
pretty great about those. And then my final one, it's what I'm doing now for my final project. I'm creating a Twitter story, a ghost story, and I've been forever wanting to write an anti-hero, someone you like but don't like. And I've had this in my head, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to use as much media as I can. And it's been really fun creating all these utilizing these different media that will help the story along, because it's really in tweets. Like you said, you wrote a story in tweets. It's not easy to layer it and make it, but sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, everything you've been doing on that story has been really cool, and you've really incorporated a lot of different types of media and aspects to the story. So it's been really fun to follow.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, okay, this could be my final project. It's awesome. It's really fun to do. And so I got to figure out how to do this somehow with students, obviously legally. So, because I don't think I can just throw them all on Twitter, but I got to figure out how to do this, because I don't know. I've had a really good time.
Yeah.
So, I guess I'll jump onto the dialogue and then we'll go back to yours.
Okay.
Mine was the Digital Youth Network. I thought it was really a powerful thing where the whole goal, and I wrote down the quote from it, they want to support urban youth in learning digital media for their educational development. But they took it a step further, and if you love something and you want to learn how to do something, and they had multiple things, anything from music engineering to graphic design to they let you learn it, and they help you, and they get you a mentor, and then you can become a mentor, and then it can get to a point where they'll pay you to teach other people. and these are high school kids, you know. It was really
Mhm.
powerful. And they also have connections to like the city of Chicago and different things you could do with that. And I don't know, it was a very, very powerful website.
Right.
So I found that to be very cool.
Yeah, I didn't get to do that one, but I saw I saw, you know, a few people in the class doing it and got to watch their dialogue. So that sounded very interesting.
It was cool. And this was probably my second favorite. So
Yeah. This yeah, there were so many. Like the INTE5340, I really loved that one too. But I felt like for this one, 18 in the Bay was I felt like what I really loved about it, besides just it being cool and lots of cool content, was that I felt like I could really use this in my future with teaching and with my students, and I really would like to. So I'd like to do a project like this, which I know I don't have to explain it to you because you and I did this dialogue together. But so if you scroll down a little, I just put a few of the my favorite parts of it. The getting perspective was where the students got to do an interview. They conducted interviews themselves, and then they
yeah, that
posted.
was a great
So
one.
I thought that was really cool, and um, I've had my students do interviews in the past, but doing something like this more collaborative would be cool. And then the survival guide to high school, I thought, you know, advice from teens to teens, something that I think my students would respond well to. And
Right.
then the story of my life, the space where the kids could just share some part of their own story. So those are a few of my favorite parts of that dialogue. And I really hope to incorporate aspects of it starting out with my students, and then someday I would love to like actually do this as a project if I'm teaching seniors or whatever.
Yeah. I thought it was fantastic. And very powerful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was especially story of my life. I thought people opened wide open, you know, if they were allowed to share it. Um, there was another one I liked, which was your soundtrack.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack.
That was really interesting, and that
Mhm.
got people a chance to put in video and do
Right.
different things. So
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
yeah,
well, like all of it, I liked all of it so much. When I was doing this, I was like, well, I could just put links to every part of the site on here, but I tried to keep
yes,
it narrowed down.
I know.
So.
Cool. And so, do you have more to?
We could move on to the next question. The which learning theory or concept from the course moved you the most? And if you scroll down a little, I put a
Oh,
couple.
you did put it. Okay,
Hmm.
I will go back. Share screen.
Yeah, if you just scroll down a little. So I think overall, like week 9 was probably my favorite week, and that was talking about digital cultures. So the one of the articles was walking the line between reality and fiction in online spaces.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a really interesting look at narrative transportation. I'd always really considered narrative transportation to be a positive thing. It's like one of my favorite things about reading. But I thought it was really interesting to look at the other side as well of how that could be a dangerous thing or something just to be really careful with, especially with digital cultures, um, where people, you know, might start taking the story for reality. And then, so kind of going off of that as well, one of the videos we watched was about the fake news machine. Um, and I thought I really liked this one because, you know, you always hear about some of the news is fake and you know, you can't trust everyone on the internet and things like that. But this was like a really concrete, like, uh, logical perspective on it, not just an abstract idea of like, be careful what's out here. But it clearly showed the dangers of fake news and becoming too absorbed in a single digital culture.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting and important, but also to, you know, make sure to passing that information along to students and helping them understand how to be a part of a digital culture.
I think it's really important, and I almost did choose this one also, this
Mhm.
article, just because I think the hardest part for kids is just not to take everything as,
Yeah.
found on the internet, for adults too, quite honestly. But um, yeah, and the whole fake news. Is this the one where they went to there was a town
Yeah.
in, yeah, yeah, that was fascinating.
Fake news capital of the world or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. And they just created so they can get clicks and make money.
Yeah, I know. I was like mind blown watching it, especially, I mean, I can't believe the guy on there even ended up meeting with them and gave all that information.
Right.
Um, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible, and you have to be very wary um, of what you're reading.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that was probably one of my favorite weeks and one of the ideas that stuck with me a lot.
yeah, that's cool. The most I think multimodality really stuck out for me.
Hmm.
Um, I've always done, and this was from a teacher perspective. I've always done multi-genre projects, but they're still all writing. So now to go out and to connect and to share a story from you know, different media, using different mediums, and I just the whole idea that there's so many different types of literacy out there, and you share it in different ways, and I don't know, it really moved me as a teacher. Like, I've got
Yeah.
to open up. I've been doing it a long time, and I'm really excited that I got this, toward the end of my career, where I can do something new and hopefully catch up back up with the kids
Right.
and how
Right.
they see the world. And I get it, because I do that too. I'm all over the internet, and you know,
Hmm.
um, so I don't know. I thought that was very powerful.
Yeah. Definitely.
Um,
I agree.
yeah. And just again, like advertising, the uses of it, you know, in order to come in from different aspects and build your own, they're building their own story, um, not just on a blog or not just using an ad, but
Hmm.
throughout. So I don't know. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so redesigning the course. I didn't put anything here yet, but I mean, I have ideas. For me, the big thing was it was just so intense at the beginning, trying to
Hmm.
figure everything out. And maybe that's a part of it. You're supposed to figure things out on your own, but I felt maybe I felt I was left to figure things out a little too much, and maybe I didn't ask,
Yeah.
and you were supposed to ask on Twitter and all, but I wasn't ready. The first couple
Yeah.
challenges.
It was definitely kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, and I saw people trying big things at the beginning, and then going to smaller things, and then going back to what they knew, and then trying something.
Right.
But I don't know, like a slow build to big things. Um, might have
Yeah.
helped.
I agree.
So that would be, one of the few things. Do you need me to put something up for yours?
Oh no, I don't have anything on there. But so I guess one of the things that I was thinking was, I know we got to talk or like interact with a lot of everyone in the class
Right.
through Twitter and see what people were posting and stuff. But I was thinking, since our discussion group seemed kind of small, um, the same 5 people every week. I thought it would be interesting or helpful to mix up the discussion groups, maybe like halfway through, so we could get to know other people and start to have some different conversations too. I don't like not fully, but I felt like sometimes our conversations ended up being a bit repeated over the course of the semester because it was the
Right.
same people with some of the same ideas. Just like I don't know. I think that would have been a nice thing. Um,
I agree. It's a long course. It's
yeah.
a very long course, and it would have been nice to I personally still have no idea how many people were in the course.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have
I'm
no
not sure.
idea. I tried to judge it on who was posting on the on Twitter, but
Right. Well, I
okay,
think the
no
only
idea.
like when I got a good picture was when we saw the list of like who we had to remix, then we could see. But even then, I saw people's names on there that I was like, I've never seen that name before.
No, I agree.
So
So maybe,
yeah,
even a whole group communication. I don't know if Zoom can handle 20 people, but
right.
something where
Well,
we did the introduction at the very beginning.
right, that like flipogram or whatever,
Yeah,
flip chart. I don't remember. Yeah.
Flipgrid.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So something, yeah, I was wanting that too, where I could in the middle talk to people and see their faces. I mean, I was
Mhm.
at a pizza place, and I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but I swear it was Brad there.
Oh, really?
I went up and asked the guy because it was the same goatee and he looked like him, and I was like, "Are you going to be the real life version, of my professor?" And
That's
it wasn't,
funny.
but
Oh.
it was pretty funny. I was like, "Wow, so strange." And it's so strange getting to know him, and I've only seen him in a couple videos, but mostly on Twitter. And
Right.
so part of that to me was I still want a little more connection, but
Yeah.
that's just me, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if kids
Yeah.
care, but so yeah, that's all I'd say. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Then the last one, single greatest takeaway. And I just put the quote up here from Henry Jenkins. Uh, I think we have to fundamentally shift our paradigm if we are going to respond to the way young people are learning. And I think I've said that over and over in this one. We're behind, and we're not clearly getting how kids are learning because they're learning differently than the kids I was teaching. No, the groups I was teaching 10 years ago,
Right.
20 years ago when I started,
Right.
different.
Yeah.
So,
I like that quote. That's really good. I should just take that one. That's fine. That can be my
let's go for
biggest takeaway.
cheers.
um, so I was having like trouble narrowing it down because there's just so many things, and like tool wise I was thinking about like the daily creates. I just love doing those, and hypothesis is like such a useful tool, and I'm definitely it's going to change the way I do discussions in my classroom. But like my big picture biggest takeaway on the more philosophical side is just that it helped me broaden my definition of storytelling to include so much more than just the written word, and that using all different types of um, digital tools to create stories is not only fun, but it's more authentic and relevant in our world today, and so especially to my students.
Yeah, I fully agree with all of that too. I'll just steal that too. Um, yeah, I think that's great. It's been eye opening, that is for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
it definitely has. So I don't know. I think all in all, it was a great course. There were lots of frustrations just because it's technology, and
Yeah,
I've always
I
found
did.
technology very frustrating.
Yeah, that was a challenge, but I did appreciate that everything we were doing like had a purpose. It was helpful. It either served to remind me of something important,
Right.
or give me like personal like ideas and teaching ideas and like things to take to my classroom. Like everything was useful versus like some classes I feel like just kind of doing random stuff and just a lot of review, and
Right.
so I thought it was challenging, but it was worth it.
I agree. I thought it was laid out very well. I thought each week, you know, I each module I learned something new that was like, oh, okay, like
Definitely.
I can use it. Plus, that's just really interesting. I was a little behind in what technology, I did very
Right.
basic things, and now I don't know, made me excited for
Yeah.
kind of the future, and
Hmm. Yeah,
make
I
the
agree.
idea of teaching more interesting again.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
cool.
thought it was great. So, yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks for
Yeah,
doing the review with me.
yeah,
And
sure.
any last words? I'm about to stop.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Thanks.